All right. I show that we are recording and the lunch whistle here in Giddings has gone off and we are ready to kick off our TMN Tuesday pop-up event. Before we get started with the content of today's presentation, as always, we're going to run through our virtual meeting room etiquette and our last minute tech check for anybody who is still having issues hearing us. Hopefully you can see my mouth moving. Hopefully you may not be able to hear me say this, but we do have a WebEx help guide on our website that can help you walk through some audio check issues if you are still having those. As a master naturalist, today we will be using the chat function to ask questions of our speaker. Michelle and Hannah and I will be moderating that chat. Please help us by keeping those chat questions concise, using your best spelling and grammar possible so that we know what you're asking and we can ask it as intended. Also keep those questions and comments on topic, professional, and respectful as always. If you are a master naturalist today logging in for our TMN Tuesday, both live and as a recording, you can count this as advanced training hours during the calendar year of 2024. Please work with your VMS admin to get that counted appropriately. And then that recording, if you are wanting to come back and watch this again, will be on our YouTube page within the day time after this live event is happening. If you are still new here and you haven't been on one of these WebEx before, fear not, you are not able to unmute or share your video. And again, that's intentional so that we can give the spotlight to Lee today and we can use that chat function to filter all of those questions. Before we get started with our content, one last little bit of tech check. We do have a survey that we're using this year to help us to gauge the use of these webinar events like this for educational purposes. Please use that link and Michelle or Hannah is going to drop it in the chat, or you can take your phone and scan that QR code. That does help us to, again, to justify these types of events for future programming needs. When you are filling that out, you do want to fill it out with the county that you are participating from today as the location for these events. All right, and with that, Michelle, you want to introduce our speaker and our content for today?
Yes, so excited to have Lee Smith as our speaker today for this special pop-up event. And Lee, if some of you, if you attended the annual meeting last year in the Valley, Lee was there. He just started with my program. It's been just a year now, so and he's done so many great things. One of the things he wanted to share with you today, and we put it up as a pop-up event, is it's quite timely that a lot of things are going on in the Master Naturalist program right now, especially out in the field. And this is the prime time to be gathering some video content for contributing to Lee's work and even the work of your own, promoting your own Master Naturalist chapter at the local level. So today's event is called the Handheld Videographer, Capturing Quality Videos with Your Phone to Promote Your Chapter in the Master Naturalist program. And before we get started with a more formal introduction of Lee and some of his work, I do want to remind you that this is a pop-up event for our TMN Tuesday. It's just one that we added to the calendar at the last minute on a Tuesday, TMN Tuesday pop-up. But coming up in June 11th for our regularly scheduled TMN Tuesdays, we wanted to put in a plug for that one coming up as well. And so we'll talk about safety in the field. So you can register for today's event, next month's event, and the entire year's worth of TMN Tuesdays at the link here. And we'll put that in the chat for you. You can also visit our website at any time to register for our TMN Tuesday events for the entire year. And then so back to Lee, today's presenter, Lee Smith, and Lee works for Texas Parks and Wildlife within my community stewardship and engagement program. He's our technical guidance information specialist, and Lee's the majority of Lee's work is putting together technical guidance and information videos on our programs, our projects, and the species that we care about. And the one thing I do want to do, if you can go to the next slide, is put a plug in for some of the resources that Lee has already created. One of them being this video landing page. And so I want to mention this because there's all sorts of topics there as a master naturalist that you can use in working with others or in the field and communicating the information that's presented through these technical guidance videos that Lee has done. So they are all organized by topic, and it is continually added to. So just actually one just dropped yesterday on urban alligators and working on urban alligator issues. So and what we are hoping is that the video that you will be, Lee will be training you to take through this session today will contribute to Master Naturalist videos and our other work at with these technical guidance videos at Texas Parks and Wildlife. So you are the people in the field where Lee can't always get to every corner of Texas when something exciting is happening. So that's where you come in. So next slide, we'll turn it over to Lee. I forgot to mention, Lee has quite a storied background in this work. This is the third time he's worked for Parks and Wildlife, Texas Parks and Wildlife, as a videographer of sorts. He started the Texas Parks and he was one of the first producers of our Texas Parks and Wildlife show, TV show. He came back, he retired from that position, came back again and worked in our communications division, working on the State of Texas Springs shows and other education and outreach videos through our communications division. And then now he's back again to work with our community stewardship and engagement program. So I'm going to turn it over to Lee for the rest of the presentation. Thank you, Lee. We're so happy you're here.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Has my screen come up? Has my PowerPoint come up?
Not yet. You'll need to reshare. So on the bottom of your WebEx, find that share button. Looks great.
Are we there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, as Michelle said, I need help, and I need help from you. And I need video of your chapter in action. And action is the key word. So, your chapter out in the field. I don't need shots of meetings or lunches or any of that stuff. I need action in the field. So use your cell phone. Everybody has got these cell phones in their pockets, and their capabilities are getting more and more sophisticated and better. And all I need are 3 to 5 short video clips. That's it. So step one, I need you to shoot in 4K. Almost all phones nowadays can shoot in 4K and even probably 5K for some. I've got an iPhone 12. So most of them, when you get them, are set in a resolution called 1080. So I need you to change that. And so to do that, go into your settings, scroll down and find camera, select it, and then under record video, you want to hit that, and it'll give you a bunch of choices. And you want to record at 4K at 30 frames per second. Then go back to settings and select format, and you want to select most compatible if you have that choice. I've got an Apple phone, so an Android might be slightly different, but the basic concept's the same. Now, slow-mo, and I'll talk about slow-mo in a bit. If you want to mess with slow-mo, go ahead and change that to the 1080 as well. I would avoid the 240 frames unless you've got something that's moving super fast and you want to slow it down. 120 will be fine for me. So go back to settings, and there are a couple of compositional aids that may help you out. One is grid, and the other is level. So the level is basically a line in the center of the frame. It's very hard to see right here, and it lets you know it'll be broken up, and when it becomes solid, it's right there in the middle. When it becomes solid, that means your phone is level. The other is called the grid, and what it does is it projects a rule of thirds overlay. It's kind of faint, so I highlighted it here. So as you see, it's basically like a tic-tac-toe grid on top of your photograph or your camera. And what this allows you to do is to frame in a way that creates interest. And so basically the concept is important elements are placed on these lines or their intersections. And a lot of times people will do this subconsciously. A lot of times, you know, I mean, you could take some of your favorite photographs and throw that grid on top, and you'll be surprised how it lines up. So these intersections are interest points. And you can see how these things are lining up. The bow of the boat, the horizon in the background, that little island in the background, the bee's eye. And a lot of times it's good to keep the horizon out of dead center. Dead center, I mean, sometimes if you're shooting something like, you know, the Taj Mahal that's very symmetrical and everything, you might want to shoot it dead center. But there are other times you don't want to do that. So the grid can help you out. And then it also helps you anchor the foreground. It's always good to have something anchoring your foreground. This would be a nice sunset and some waves, but that rock gives depth, it gives scale. And I'm sure this photographer probably has this shell in his trunk and uses it and throws it down whenever he's at the beach. Some people do this with skulls. It's like the Georgia O'Keeffe effect. But always look for something to anchor your foreground, especially if you're doing, you know, some kind of wider shot. So step 2 is shoot horizontally. I'm not doing TikTok videos or reels on Instagram or Facebook. This stuff is gonna be on YouTube and TV aspect ratio, which is a horizontal aspect ratio. So rotate that camera 90 degrees and shoot horizontally for all shots. So there's kind of a difference between shooting a photograph and shooting a video. A good photograph tells a story in one image. This was shot by a guy named Simon Detremont. I ain't French. He's a Canadian wildlife photographer and YouTuber. I look at his stuff a lot. I highly recommend him. He's got a bunch of great tips. Now, video and film tells stories in a sequence of shots, right? We're not in Kansas anymore. Oh, did you hear something? Ooh, this is going to be fun. Now, if you'll notice, all these are different shots. We've got a wide shot, we've got a long shot, we've got a medium shot. And there's names for all. There's the medium close-up, there's the close-up, there's the extreme close-up, there's the over-the-shoulder, the point of view. There's all sorts of different shots, but variety is the key. So you, video shooters, your job is to provide an editor, me, with a variety of shots and good audio to tell a compelling story. That's your job. In general, we call this coverage, shooting enough coverage of a particular event to tell that story. So go shoot me a video sequence. I need 3 to 4 different shots, each about 10 to 15 seconds long, and 1 short interview. So here's our establishing shot. We know right now where we are. Try to shoot stuff that reads quickly, reads well. And look at that Satillo, or is that a yucca, anchoring the foreground over there. And Craig is probably right on, Craig and Wendy are right on an interest point if we had a grid up here. Now, move in for tighter shots of the people and what their action is. And get your close-ups, the object of the action. And bang, you've got a sequence right there. Also, don't shoot everything from eye level. It's probably going to be easier for you to get down and get low. Now, a lot of times you can't see what you're shooting, what the end product is, but you know, if you stay wide and just let it play, you'll probably get something good. Now, shoot a short interview. Get about 3 to 4 feet from the subject. This will get the mic close. And if it's windy, put the wind at your back to try to protect the mic, which is usually going to be on the front there of your camera. And when you're shooting an interview, good audio is more important than good video. So find a leader or expert or whoever's comfortable on camera and ask them at the very beginning to say their name and how to spell it. And this will be important when I key up their ID later. Which chapter is this? Where are you? What are you doing here? And why are they doing this? So a little emphasis on headroom here. A lot of people, when they take pictures, will put the subject just dead center. And look at this wasted space up there. The headroom is the distance between the top of the head and the top of the frame. That is proper headroom. Okay, and also, again, watch your framing, not dead center. I like my interviews placed over on the right. Frame to the right side. Oh, look at that, how he lines up. So this allows us to have, this is what's called a medium close-up with look space left. And that gives us room for what's called a lower third graphic. So this is where I need that information for who you are shooting this of. So there are some accessories you can get. This is a clip-on wide angle and or macro. It's one unit. It has a wide angle screw-on attachment. And I don't really like that one, but the macro is pretty cool. And so you screw off that diopter on the outside and you clip that to the camera on your phone. And you can get a pretty cool shot with it. However, there is a problem. Whenever you're shooting something that's super close, especially handheld, any movement is going to be as magnified as that subject. So you might just want to take a still of that with the macro. I can use stills, and that'll count as your close-up. So if you want to try and steady it up, you can get these tripods. I think they're kind of rickety, and it's just one more thing to have, clanking around while you're actually not out there trying to do video. You're out there trying to do some, activity for master naturalists, right? So you didn't need a lot of stuff. But you can get some neat stuff. This is a extension that some of our biologists use to actually peek into birds' nests. Problem is, it's almost like the macro on a different scale. Even if you're wide, you've got your camera at this, on this long pole, and it's going to be moving around. So again, you might want to take a still, put your timer on, your self timer, put it on photo in like a 10-second countdown, and then throw it up there and take a couple of shots. You won't be able to see what you're shooting. So, just take a couple and pick the best one. If you want to get real adventurous, you can get these gimbals, and it will stabilize the phone. So here goes the gimbal. Now I was on grass and now I'm walking into some, pretty tall stuff. And so I'm kind of high stepping, but it's pretty stable and it's nice. You know, that's cool. But look at this. This is without a gimbal. This is just with it wide and I'm just holding it and walking kind of slow. So you can see there's some movement there, but it's not bad. So don't sweat it if you don't have a gimbal. You can do this just with a little practice. The gimbals do have a tilt function that's kind of cool. You can go up, you can go down. They've got a pan feature that's kind of cool. These insects were like really keyed into me here. And it has a zoom function. And I kind of like the zoom function. It kind of freaks out a little bit here. Boom, it'll go in. There we go. And the automatic focus is pretty good. This is a pretty good shot, And it's, this goes for a while. And he comes back and takes off again. And that's kind of a cool shot. What they're really good for is what's called a crane shot. And there's a little bit of a drift in this. You kind of have to stop before your final composition and you'll see, okay, I stopped and now it drifts in. So now I'm gonna go back up and I'm gonna stop and it drifts in. So, and this takes practice. This takes, you're gonna need to go out and play with this thing. You don't wanna learn on location if you've got this new equipment. Now you can get, if you want to get, really high tech and good quality, you can get a lavalier mic system, wireless. So your subject would have the transmitter and the lavalier on, and then there's a little clip on to your phone that's the receiver, and you can get, better audio. And they do come with windscreens if it's windy out. So that might be something if you really want to get into this. However, again, more stuff, more complicated. You don't really need a bunch of accessories. Just a phone used skillfully can be enough. Now, one thing, as you're shooting, you can kind of get excited and you can come back with like 3 and 5 second shots because you're trying to get all these different shots. Just let it roll. Let it roll. I need at least 10 seconds. And so I count to myself, but there's this counter over to the side and watch that. And once it hits 10, 15, bang, you can hit stop. And again, stay wide. Stay wide. Wide settings has less shake and limit the use of the zoom feature. If somebody doing something interesting like 20 yards away, you might be tempted just to zoom in from where you are, but move your feet, move your position and composition to change the shot. Because again, the more you magnify something, the more unstable it's going to be, the more camera shake there's going to be. That said, there is the time for the close-up. Cell phones can take good close-ups. They have a really limited depth of field. You'll see the petals of this flower in the foreground are sharp, but as you move back, they're kind of out of focus. And the same thing with the petals on that horse mint. So it has a very short depth of field. So you flatters, like if you wanted that whole Indian blanket in focus, you should adjust your position and get the flower on the same plane, and you would probably have that whole thing in focus. But there's video. So as you heard me state, that was handheld and zoomed in, and that's a nice little close-up. And it's got, it's sharp. It's sharp on that thistle. But stills, again, if there's too much movement, trying to, as you guys probably know, trying to take shots of flowers in the wind in a close-up is rough. So go with those stills. Give me a still. I can do a movement on stills, a little push in, a little pan, a little push pull out. I can do that digitally. So yeah, if it's too much movement, bang, pop me a still. Now stay sharp. The autofocus feature is usually pretty accurate. However, sometimes you might need to adjust. And you do that by tapping on the screen on where you want that thing to focus. And it also takes a light reading at the same time. I don't know if you can see it here, but that little emblem with the, it's a little horn toad thing, that's about the size of a quarter, maybe even less, but it has a little sun thing on there. And so, like for instance, if you're shooting a sun or a wide shot with a sunset and it's all blown out and the sun is overexposed, tap on where the sun is and it'll expose for that area and focus for that area. So here I was using that slow-mo focus or slow-mo feature, and you always want to, if you're using this, try to pre-focus. This big swallowtail, landed next to me, and I didn't have time to focus, or to check the focus, and it looked a little soft to me, and so I hit it, and you can see here it's trying to focus, but the phone is also shooting in slow-mo, so you're asking this phone to do a hell of a lot. And this goes on for a while, so let me show you. So he flies over to the next one, and here I thought it was going to really work for me, and it looks okay, but it's not sharp as a tack, it's which is too bad because this is nice stuff here. And if I would have just shot this at 30 frames, I could have slowed it down later. Oh, there, see, you can see it's trying, it's working, but it just seems, the more tests I ran, it just seems that, we'll go to the next. It just seems, now here I pre-focused before I rolled. And you'll see there's a little lag here. It'll shoot normal and then it'll kick into the slow-mo. So here it's normal, and now, boom, it's kicked in. And it's just seems a little, and I blew this up in Premiere to see how it would look on, thrown into a sequence. And it's soft. It's soft. It's cool, but it's soft. So if we need to slow-mo something, I can do that. Unless you've got a better phone than me and it's sharp as a tack in slow-mo, I just shoot in 30 frames. Now here's a neat thing you can do, and it's called a rack focus. And basically what you do is you set focus on one side, press record, and then tap on the subject on the other side that you want to come in focus. And here's what that looks like. And that's kind of cool. And you see that a lot on TV. It's like the moment of recognition a lot of times. So you can also do some tilts and pans, and I encourage that. Have some fun. But I need you to hold the shot for 1 or 2 seconds at the beginning and 1 or 2 seconds at the end of the move. What this does is give your editor, me, an end point and an out point. So count to yourself. Start your recording, 1001, 1002. Do your move. Hold it, 1001, 1002. Now, you might want to also definitely have a good composition at each end. Usually the ending is the most important. So here we go. Hold, 1001, 1002, do the move, 1001, 1002. And look at that automatic focus. That's sharp. And again, if you can just roll it a little longer at the end, so maybe hold it for 3 or 4 at the end. Faces. We want to see faces. you know, you guys are going to be out in the sun, you're going to have hats on and stuff, but we don't want to see the backs of heads or backsides. So do not be afraid to direct people. Hey, everybody, look over here. Bang, we'd have their faces. So, you know, or if you need somebody to do something over, if they're planting something and you were a little late in getting there, you know, ask them to lift the plant out and do it again. You know, if you're cutting something, that's a little different. You'll have to find something else to cut. But don't be afraid to direct your folks with, you know, some discretion and politeness. So, step 4, you've gotten all this stuff, download it. Copy it to a hard drive to free up, you know, some account space, because these files will take up a lot of space, and depending on, you know, your setup, that can, and especially if you get, you know, excited and go and shoot a bunch of stuff, that can create some problems. So download that and then send it to me. The easiest way for us to get it is probably over Google Drive. Dropbox has some problems for some reason with our interface, and so Google Drive is the way to go for me. And send it to me. Send me a link, and I will download it, and I will let you know when I have successfully gotten it. So again, you can free up your Google Drive for your own purposes. So remember, shoot in 4K. Hold it horizontally. Hold that camera horizontally. Shoot a variety of compositions and angles. And if there are any children in this that are not yours, get permission. And I mean, you know, if they're small, if there's a group of kids, you know, at the back and they're very small in the shot, that's not a problem. It's when we have recognizable faces that's a problem. If the parents are there, you can just go up to them before you shoot and say, hey, I'd like to get this shot and I'd like your permission. Roll on that permission. Get the camera going and say, hey, tell me your name and do I have permission to get a shot of your child? And many times people say, sure. And then, you know, you've got everything covered. So, questions for me?
We
Hey,
have a
Lee.
couple of questions in the chat for you, Lee. Um, one was, um, they asked for your recommendation on when shooting outside with your phone, it's sometimes hard to see the screen in the sunlight. Do you have any suggestions?
That is a huge problem. And
Yeah.
it's a huge problem because a lot of the professional cameras have gone, you know, when I started, we all had, you know, an eyepiece. And so we were looking through an eyepiece, and it's a huge problem. Um, what I have done, and it's, you know, it's taking you back to old time photography. I have taken I have a large towel, a large blue, dark blue towel, and I put that over my head. And, you know, I mean, that's the only way you can do it. Um, like when I use my drone is run off my phone. I have to sometimes open up the hatchback or get under a tree and get into shade. You got to shade it. If you have somebody with you that, you know, can, you know, take their hat and give you some shade or something. But yeah, it is a huge problem. But, you know, your phones are like that autofocus feature is awesome on most phones. You saw when I was doing that tilt from the Indian blankets to the horsemen, how it read what was closest, what I was favoring, and boom, it went right in. So it is a huge challenge, and the only way I've found is a towel or an assistant with a large hat or your own large hat. If you've got a really big hat, you can kind of, it's unwieldy to, you know, depending on what you're shooting. But yeah, you got to get it in the shade somehow.
There is one question in the chat, and I was actually wanting to ask you to mention this as well. Can you share with the group some shots and topics that you are working on that you still need shots for, and maybe some of the upcoming topics and shots that you might be looking for that all these people in the field can help you with collecting and getting?
Oh, well, I mean, I need as much different activities that you guys are doing. I mean, iNat's fine. Um, Camera trapping is fine. But if you're planting things, if you're clearing things, if you're, especially like invasives and that kind of stuff.
Work on service projects.
Yeah, service projects, but also the key here is action, um, doing something. Um, just, I mean, leading a tour and pointing out things. Yeah, that's okay too. But I really like would to see you guys, getting dirty and muddy and sweaty and doing doing stuff out in the field like that. Um, in terms of some of the stuff, if you come across something very rare, some of you guys are super experts on some of our plants. If you can get me some rare plants, it doesn't have to be video. I'll use stills for that, especially if you're going for that close up. Remember how jittery that macro was. Um, but plants, critters, or just something cool, something out of the ordinary, something, a hummingbird nest on the, end of a sailboat bow. That's, I mean, just some, whatever strikes your eye is going to strike, other folks' eye. Or if there's something that you're particularly, like I met a woman, I'm sorry, I forget her name, who our brief conversation at the last annual meeting has changed my entire concept of flies. This woman is, she delivered the fly talk. Um, get me some shots of those wild flies, those, because I just thought they were all those, gross horse flies and their close cousins. I didn't know about this whole myriad of other flies out there. So, yeah,
And
different stuff.
do you want to share how even trail cam, game cams, you worked on a project specifically with, was it the Goodwater chapter with the Otter Project,
Yeah. Oh,
that is helping to um, contribute to your video on
yeah.
that subject?
Trail cam stuff is fantastic, and they've gotten better and better and better and better. Um, and if you can shoot video on it, I know it's going to fill your cards up and you're going to have to check a lot more. But if you can shoot me some video, that would be great. Um, and because, like, well, for instance, I'm doing a thing on predators right now. And so, it's tough to get a lot of predators on camera because a lot of times they are running around at night. And these things have an infrared setting on them that will pick up stuff at night. So, yeah, and again, anything super cool, any otters, any other otters that folks have got, I would love to get that. And again, you can stick it on Google Drive, and I can get it like that. But trail cameras are fantastic. Of course, those two, just like the gimbal and just like doing this, moves with your phone, it's going to take a little practice to get something. If you're used to setting up a trail cam just to record something on an area, that's one thing. But if you're also wanting to do it to get a good shot, um, you're going to have to take a couple of shots and see what that angle is, and um, if the camera is too far off, you want to try and level it. If a lot of times the trail, uh, there's too much headroom at the top, and a lot of times the animal's feet are cut off. So if you can give a little room at the bottom of the trail so that the whole animal comes through, or a lot of times they'll sniff down there and will lose their nose because from what I've seen, the camera is up. So experiment. A lot of them will let you see. Where is my trail cam? A lot of them will let you see what's being shot, and so you can adjust it. Of course, the true measure is to shoot something, take it out, and look at it on a tablet or something and see what it is. But that's a little much. Just watch and be careful about your framing. And you may even have someone, if you have someone with you, go stand, like if it's a trail, go stand over there so you can kind of see the proportions and see how you know how an actual animal or something over there would frame up.
So there's a couple other questions in the chat. This may have been a question that popped up while you were talking about downloading or sharing to a Google Drive, and you might want to go back to the slide that mentions that. But Jody asked, how do you download it to the hard drive? I think that's it. Probably you had requested people share footage on a Google Drive. Is that correct?
Oh well, I'm sorry, I was reading so much. The You want an external hard drive, or if you've got enough drive on your computer, and so you got your phone, and they're on your photos, right? Um, and a lot of times that'll be synced with your computer. So you open up that photo folder, and then you open up your hard drive folder, and label, create a new folder and say, whatever it is, label it, and then just drag those photographs over, and they'll be on the hard drive. And then, and I say, and you can probably also upload directly to Google Drive off your uh, photos from your computer. I just have such a low plan that I fill it up so quick that I get stuff off my phone and over to something that I'm not, paying for monthly. Um, so it's up to you. But yeah, I take it over to the hard drive and then upload to Google, and then I can get it from there.
So there's an interesting question, Lee, and I know in the chat again, and I know it's a project that you're working on right now. So a connection with Mary Dauberstein. She asks about any suggestions on shooting in the evening or night. We are doing Firefly research surveys right now. So what suggestions do you have for her? And Mary, Lee's probably going to want to connect with you because he's got a video topic that he's working on that also.
Yeah, I was out trying to shoot fireflies last night. I wasn't doing it with my phone. I was doing it with my GoPro, and I mean, it is super tough because they're tiny targets, they're moving targets, and it's dark. Um, and and I still, in fact, I'm downloading or copying over the stuff right now from the cards, and it's just kind of hit and miss in terms of, unless you hit it perfectly, and they all come out right at dusk, so there's still some ambient light to give you some foliage and some nice definition of that, and then the little lights. I was shooting, you can't really go in and, at least on my phone, and up the ISO, but I was shooting last night at 3200 ISO, and just kind of setting the focus at about arm's distance. And I had the camera on a gimbal and was trying to just chase fireflies around this friend of mine's lawn. And then I also stuck it on a GoPro, or stuck a GoPro on a fish pole, which is a microphone pole. And you could do it on like a selfie stick, figuring that a big body coming at the insect would scare it away. So a little distance. And again, you don't know what you're getting. You just stick it out there and try and, but it's going to be really tough to get like a close up of a flying firefly hitting the light at night. I mean, that's a sure money shot right there. But effort is effort and experimentation. One thing I noticed when we were out in West Texas, where there weren't a lot of fireflies, but we found some, is when we were turning on and off our headlamps, that seemed to kind of elicit a response from them. And so what I'm thinking of doing is taking a flash, and next time I go out, and I may do this like tomorrow night, take a flash and pop it and see if that gets everybody to hit. And so you edit out the flash, and then hopefully you've got a little lag before they respond to the flash, and then you might get, instead of 2 or 3, you might get 10 or 15 out there. But we noticed that when we would turn on and off our headlights to look at something, they say, "Oh, there's some over there." So I meant to take this last night, and I'm kicking myself I didn't. But might try that. Try a flash to, you know, kind of, yeah. Don't be afraid to direct. You can direct insects.
Jean, I'm going through some of the comments still. Jean, if you have action of an alligator relocation, we'd love to have that. And then Melissa asked about underwater shots with a GoPro. Is there something that you could use there that you need?
Sure.
Lee? Okay.
Yeah. I love underwater stuff with the GoPro, and some phones can do it. Of course, depending on the circumstances, you're taking a gamble there. But yeah, underwater stuff is fantastic. It's kind of like, putting some of these on the stick going way up. You don't, or going down low. A lot of times you can't really see what you're shooting. You kind of have to just figure out, what you think is going to be a good frame under there, or some good action. Just let it play, let it roll for a while. You can come back up and quick see what you shot, and oh, that's a better shot over this way. And so it's that's a great thing about instant playback, is you can adjust, and but it's experimentation and messing around with it. One thing that's cool to do with them is to go in and out, to be above the water line and then come and go below the water line. That's a cool shot. And just take it nice and slow to let the light meter and the focus do their thing, and just let it play, And again, like any move, you want to hold it at the beginning, do the move, hold it at the bottom, and usually hold it longer at the end of the shot.
We have a question in the chat about videos, your other videos that are on the website already. So we mentioned that a bunch of Lee's work and everybody who's been in the position before him, all of our technical guidance videos are on that video landing page in the Texas Parks and Wildlife website there that Lee created. Again, those are all available for you as master naturalist to use as a resource in communication with people that you're working with in the communities. There are some that are geared towards specific problems and solutions that you can address, such as birds hitting windows. We're actually getting ready to redo that one. And then there's other community problems and technical guidance resources that could be used from those. So please use those as a resource and help get them out to your communities and the people you work with, especially those of you who might be working with small acreage landowners. There's lots of information there. The question that was related to that little tangent is, are the videos only available on the website or are they on a YouTube channel? And so do you want to talk a little bit, Lee, about how to find them on YouTube? That
Yeah,
the website may be your best resource. They are on YouTube, but
yeah, YouTube is where we host all of our videos because it doesn't cost us anything, basically. And so, yeah, they are on YouTube. Like what you're seeing there are links, hot links to YouTube. So when you go to that landing page there and click on any of those videos, it's going to take you to YouTube. Now, if you're on YouTube and you just, you can, and the title, you put the title in there in Texas Parks and Wildlife, and it should come up. Parks and Wildlife has their own channel, our own channel, and so you could, like our channel. And there's different playlists. The playlist, I mean, we've got so many playlists. It's that's why the wildlife diversity playlist is buried in there. I can't find it when I go to the interface as a user. I have a lot of problems finding it. So that landing page, that's where everything will be, and the newest ones will be loaded at the top of each, like the birds and reptiles. Like the alligator one that I just finished is now at the top of the reptiles. But yeah, they're on YouTube, and you can just search. Like, let's say if you wanted something that we did on alligator gar, if you went to YouTube and went to YouTube's search window and typed in alligator gar, Texas Parks and Wildlife, boom, anything that we've done is going to come up with that. Does that answer it?
Yeah, and Lee, I was able to find the wildlife diversity playlist, so I dropped that link in the chat as well as the landing page for all of TPWD and your most recent alligator video, which I haven't seen yet. It got uploaded yesterday.
yeah,
I haven't put it
just
on
published
the
it yesterday.
playlist. Although Garrett might have, the guy in media, they get a special thumbnail and title through our social media folks.
Oh, it's on YouTube already and has over nearly 1,000 views already. 21 hours ago.
Is it on the playlist?
I don't know.
I don't think it's connected to the playlist yet.
Yeah,
We just made it public
I've
yesterday.
gotten down on the playlist, and so I haven't loaded stuff on the playlist. I need to do that as part of the workflow. But my major focus has been on the landing page. But
it's on the landing page.
Okay, note to self.
There's a question about some of your accessories. Lee, and if you can share these slides with me, I can get these slides put on our website so folks can go back and reference some of the specific pictures and brands that that you've showed with some of your specific accessories.
Okay.
But Mike wants to know about a phone lavalier microphone that you would recommend and a cost associated or a range that you would suggest.
I be honest, I inherited that unit and I don't use it because I shoot, as much as possible with the professional stuff. And I'm a real believer in good audio is more important than good video in certain circumstances, in many circumstances. And so I'm trying to use the best mics, the best, I mean, I could show you my parabolic reflecting microphone. It's hanging up here. So I haven't run the traps on exactly, they're going to be a couple of $100 probably. You could probably get some cheap ones for less than that, but they're going to be, a couple of $100 for a good one. They might be less. I don't know. I probably should have done a price check on some of these, a current price check. That's the one that I showed you is pretty old, but those are the components. You've got a little clip on to the bottom of your phone that goes in to the bottom. That's the receiver, and then they've got a little transmitter.
And then I have another question that kind of goes in a different direction, Lee. It was asked earlier, and I think we've missed it, but you talked about it a little bit at the very beginning. The ideal video for the types of projects that you're working on is laid out in landscape or horizontal view. Is there value if somebody has a portrait or vertical video? Does that hold value to you? Is there information that you would want, that you'd prefer that type of formatted video in?
Depends on what it is. The problem with a horizontal one, I either have to letterbox it and put it like this with black or out of focus stuff
You mean
over
a vertical
here.
one?
Hmm?
You mean vertical?
Yeah, a vertical. If I have one, like if this is the video right here, if I want to get that into a horizontal, I have to expand it. And if it was shot on 720 or even 180, I'm because the 180, when you're shooting vertical, the 180 is this direction. Whereas when I'm doing it vertically, the 180 is that direction. So I'm taking that middle portion and it's going to fall apart pretty quick. And when I say it depends on what it is, if it's something amazing, sure. I mean, the Kennedy assassination shot was on a handheld Super 8 video, but because it was such an extreme event, that footage is what you see. It's not some great camera. It's some handheld Super 8 that this guy was just playing with. So if it's something amazing, if it's indigo snakes mating on a rare plant, or I mean, if it's something amazing, sure, I'll take it. We'll make use of it. If it's unique and if it blows your mind, it's going to blow someone else's mind.
There you go. Great. There was also a call a lot earlier, and excuse me if this exists and I'm not aware of it, but suggested settings. You had pictures from an iPhone or an Apple device earlier. There was questions about any sort of setting guides for other types of devices, Android, Google phones, things like that.
Just those numbers. The actual settings might be different in Android, but you want to go for whatever their 4K is. And if you have a choice on frames per second, 30 is probably your best choice. So wherever that is in the menu, and then there might be something else about file size, whether they are efficient, which means they're going to compromise that file a little bit. The larger the file, and in terms of its format, and now if you have a choice between MOV and MP4, I'd like an MOV file if you have that choice. Those are the main things. However you navigate in whatever phone you have to get 4K video, 4K at 30 frames per second with the largest file size, and if you have the choice in MOV, that's what I'd like.
That's really helpful for you to outline the base levels of what you're looking for that they can find across all their different device platforms that they may be coming from.
Yeah, 4K is the main thing. 4K at 30 frames per second.
Okay. Bob asked, so there was two questions following up that, and then I think those might be our last two questions of the hour here. But Misty asks, my phone has 8K setting, but not 4K. Can you use video shot with that?
Sure.
And then Bob asks, why MOV opposed to MP4?
MOV works easier in my edit system. They're both good wrappers. So if you like him, I can use either. I just it's my that's what I shoot on. It's a QuickTime format that just works better with my stuff. But Premiere can handle it, and so can I. So yeah, it's more of a personal choice. One thing that I do have problems with that I have to convert, and this comes from a lot of trail cameras, is AVI. I can still use them. I can still convert them, but it's just another step.
Yeah. Okay. I think this wraps up our hour, and there's no more questions that I see in the chat. I think we've covered everything. But Lee, if you'll send me your slides, I can get these and the